So I think y'all will think this is funny. I was talking for like a whole maybe 2 minutes before I realized I didn't turn the camera on, just to tell you what kind of a day it is. So, that being said, we're just gonna jump right into it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to my new video. It is 11:26, I believe, today. I could be wrong, don't quote me. It's the weekend, so it's the weekend after the giving of thanks or Black Friday or whatever you want to call it. It's Sunday. And we are here to talk about the continuation of my last video, how to start your spiritual practice. And I just want to go into some other things that I might not have mentioned within that video, just some more tips and tricks. This is going to be more of a shorter video, but definitely one that could help. So if you're ready, let's go. If not, go get a glass of water and come back. And also, if you haven't done so already, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you. Moving right along. I mentioned in my previous videos the first three kind of magical things that I picked up outside of being Catholic were Buckland's Complete Guide to Witchcraft, Silver Ravenwolf's To Ride a Silver Broomstick, and the Mythic Tarot Deck. Between the two books, I learned a lot, and it helped me to open my eyes to other things, to other practices. And I started researching on those. I started researching Norse paganism. I delved into the Celtic path for a little bit. I researched Satanism. I researched Buddhism. I researched a lot of different traditions and religions and practices out there in the world because I wanted to understand what was so evil about them and what was so evil about being a part of those practices and the people that were a part of those practices, the culture, the lifestyle. And what I found was so conflicting to the values that I had been taught when I was younger, being Catholic, that it really swayed me into wanting to know more and wanting to meet people who were a part of these traditions, these practices, these religions. So that's what I did. I went further and further. I started going to various magic shops to find out more about what people were selling and what they were into and who they knew and what kind of magical practices they were a part of. I started to research on different forms of divination because that's, if you guys didn't know, mainly one of the things that I like to do is divine. I used a lot of different methods to divine, and the first one that I was given, the Mythic Tarot deck, I found out not only can you use that for divination, but you can also use tarot within your magical spells, which I've spoken about before. And if you guys want, I can make a big like to-do video for you guys to understand how that process works. But that's for a future video. For this one, we're going to stay the course. But with that, like researching other methods of tarot also became open to me. Researching other methods of divination became open to me. Researching just the cultures behind those methods and practices and the simplified versions, like cultures that use dice or cards or shells or runes or charm bags or bones, pendulums, or just scrying using tea leaves and uh, palmistry and all that other stuff. Like there's so many methods of divination, and that's just divination. You want to talk about spiritual practices? There's so many out there. So research, research. When you think you found one good author, do some research on not only all the positive stuff that the authors put out there, but also any negative reviews or negative comments anybody may have. The truth may be about this author. They may be a good person, but they might not understand that maybe some of the things that they've done or written about, should I say, might be culturally sensitive, might actually borderline or just be straight cultural appropriation. Things have changed. A lot of information has been kind of like fuddled and fudged throughout the years, and now that we're more in the know and now and have everything full front facing, it's easier to understand the significance behind things like not using white sage if you're not a part of cultures or practices that use white sage, especially if it's not Native American or indigenous practices, because That's important. It's important. That brings me to the ancestral part of this. So when you're starting your spiritual practice, and I don't believe I got too heavy into this before, but when you're starting your spiritual practice, while I would say research everything, and you should, I think it's also important to state you do yourself a disservice by not talking to people in your family, by not talking to your loved ones, by not talking to people who, while they may not be family, may understand who you are in terms of culture. Like, let's say you were adopted and you took a 21andMe test and you found out, oh, you're mainly from this area of the world. You have a tie there, you have a connection. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the practice that that part of the world is regarding is open to you. It might not be, but it might behoove you to find out more about that practice, find out more about the people and the culture and the lifestyle, find out about the background of that practice and any other practices that are within that area. It will, in my opinion, be a lot stronger for what you do the closer you are connected to it, the closer you are tied to it, the closer you have that spiritual link, because there's also the magic of the generations that have passed on before us. We have that magic. That magic doesn't just go away. It shifts over. It comes over. So that's stored up magic, that stored up ancestral magic that you have throughout time that you can access. So ancestral workings, it's also when you're doing your research, when you're starting your practice, research your ancestors, research where you are from, your blood lineage, your blood tie. If you're adopted, that's a little difficult to do. But if you do have that information somehow, or if you ever take a 21andMe test or anything like that to find out where you are closely connected to it in the world, that may help. You may not need to know, who came before you directly, but at least this way you can know where you're tied from. And that's important because you may be doing things already that are considered a part of the practice from the area of the world that you're a part of. They say that there's memory within the blood. They say that certain things are passed down, including trauma. So magic, I mean, that's definitely something that I feel is passed through generation to generation. So while you may not understand why you always want the fruit bowl at your table, or you always have to make sure to sweep all of the stuff outside of the house, or you may always make sure that your hangers are facing one way, or that your mirrors are covered, or that you bless your mirrors, things like this. These are things that are part of various practices that just pass down generation to generation, and some of them are very sacred, even the simplest of things. So I would encourage you, talk to your grandmother or grandfather, talk to, if you do one of those tests, talk to people from that part of the world, that region, or research that part of the world in that region. Talk to people in your family who know more about your past. Do research into that, and really don't hold yourself back when it comes to that. If there's trauma, that's a different story. If there's family trauma, that's definitely a reason to not talk to your family members, but you can still do one of those 21andMe tests to see. This way you don't have to be in contact with them. But ancestral practices I wanted to touch on in this video, because I really feel like when we start as practitioners, we run away from everything that we've already known, not understanding that there's probably a layer underneath that we don't get to see. Most of my family, born and raised Catholic, and while that is something that is clearly evident to me and to others throughout the years, one of the things that's not evident to them, and one of the things that they would not know, is that there are other things that my family practices. I didn't know. I thought that there was still some form of being Catholic or Christian or Baptist, right? I just thought it was under Catholicism. I didn't realize that it wasn't. And when you start remembering things, like for me, I remember some of the members of my family, some of the elders wearing all white, using Florida water. I remember there being offerings all over the place. I remember um, there being chickens. I never saw what happened to them. I assume that they were okay. I don't think that they were used for anything, out there. But I mean, if they were, they were. That's a part of whatever practice that was. However, I remember I just have clear cut memories of things that were not Catholic that I didn't realize until much later on. And now I'm studying hoodoo, one of the things I'm studying. So don't do yourself a disservice and not research what you already have the past. Don't do yourself a disservice. Like, just look into it, find out more about who you are, because spirituality is all about, some people will say it's about connecting to the universe and da da da, but you're also connecting to yourself. And without that connection to yourself, to who you are, finding you, how are you connecting to anything else? So do yourself a favor, look through your ancestors, ancestral practices, find out who they are. And if you can't remember your ancestors, that's fine, because there might be other ancestors. Let's say that that's who you work with, that you can call upon. For instance, in hoodoo, I know that there are a lot of Black ancestors who, like, you're able to call upon for their own energies. Strong energies, but their own energies. I'm not going to mention any names. If you want to know the names, I would encourage you to do some more research regarding hoodoo. And for those who are afraid of things like voodoo, Santeria, stuff like that, if you find somebody that's knowledgeable, just ask them, just talk to them, because those practices have been demonized for so long. People don't understand that these are very holy practices. These are very religious practices. These traditions are ancestral. These traditions are passed down generation to generation, mainly word of mouth. They're sacred. They're sacred. And there's a lot of power behind these practices. Not all of these practices are ones where they're all love and light, but I think those are also, just in my opinion, the realest, because they have a left hand and a right hand. You can't have one without the other. So, and that's also the essence and balance of life. Not everything is quote unquote love and light. And I just want you guys to know, if you didn't already know this, I'm not a love and light person. Like, I'm not 100% on one way or the other. I'm very much in the middle. So, anyway, my next video, because this one was very brief, my next video is going to be about some resources for all of you. If you're wondering, I will show you guys some more resources, some more places to kind of start from. I mentioned two in the previous video, and I mentioned them in this video, which is Buckland's Complete Guide to Witchcraft, Silver Ravenwells to Write a Silver Broomstick. I think that those are amazing places to start. Another one is going to be, I think it's Zen Moist. It's the Hoodoo Bible. That's another one. Another after that is, I think it's called The Witch's Journal or something. It's by Juliet Diaz, who is an amazing indigenous author. Very clear to understand with that. What else? I mean, there's so many books. I'm trying to figure out what another one would be. I think that's going to be it for now. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for the videos, for the books that I recommend within this video, especially because I think I'm fading out here and I need to get some coffee. So I will have more resources. If there's anything you'd like me to discuss in my next video, please let me know. This video is more like a tips, pep talk, if you will. Find those ancestral practices, research them, Don't do yourself a disservice and negate them. I think it's very important. That's it. May whatever you believe in keep you happy, healthy, and safe. Much love, and I will see you guys next week.